everyone, Melting Man 234 here, and welcome to another episode of Forgotten Media, where I dig up some stuff you may or may not have heard of. Invader Zim, a cult classic television series during the good old days of Nickelodeon, and everyone keeps asking me to talk about it on Forgotten Media. And I refuse to talk about the series for certain reasons. But that doesn't mean I will not talk about the cancelled Invader Zim episodes. Yes, indeed. It turns out there were actually a handful of episodes that were incomplete that could have expanded Season 2 or created a Season 3. And with that said, I will only focus on the unfinished episodes of Invader Zim. First off is Robo-Parents Gone Wild. This episode would have Zim's Robo-Parents malfunction and start acting like real parents. And there's a segment where they replace their son Zim with a mutant badger monkey thingy. It's pretty weird. Next is Simon Says Doom! In this episode, Zim joins an orphanage to take advantage of the children to be his slaves by saying a command after saying Simon Says. It's pretty funny how these idiotic kids listen to what he says when he tells them to rule the world and such. Next is Invader Punchy, where Zim tries to make a decoy and places a clone of his pack onto some kid named Punchy to try and distract Dib. One of my favorite moments is that Zim spazzes out about seeing Gur leaking out beef, which turns out it was just a trick by Gur. Next is Nubs of Doom. Zim gets fed up with Gur's stupidity and decides to create a new sidekick known as Mini-Moose, a stuffed moose with secret weapons built into it. Now the interesting thing is that in this episode, it was going to properly introduce Mini-Moose, who would become part of Zim's minions on the show. But in the final run, all Mini-Moose got was making one appearance in the Christmas special. Next is 10 Minutes of Doom. This was quite a dark episode of the series. It would have Div remove Zim's pack from his body, as Zim only has 10 minutes to live unless he can retrieve it. While this is going on, the pack starts to take control of Dib, and slowly becoming the new Zim, since it contains all of Zim's memories, attitude, and so on. This episode was going to be the series finale, and it was going to have Zim die at the end and have Dib be the new invader, but they soon changed it to have Zim get his pack back at the last second. Next is Gur's Big Day. It would have something to do with people capturing Gur and cloning him, but it doesn't go very well. As the title says, Gur would probably have his own solo adventure, which would please all the fans. Next is Return of Keith. Yeah, this episode features that stalker from the Bestest Friends episode, as he wants to befriend Zim again. This also leads to Keith thinking Zim and Div are friends, and like the stalker that he is, he constantly tries to get them to hang out, which leads to some pretty hilarious scenes. Next is Day of the Spookies. Zim, Gur, Mini-Moose, and even Scooge try to make Div believe that ghosts are real as they dress up as ghosts. Yeah, it's just another one of those weird episodes in the series. Next is Mopiness of Doom. Dib decides to give up his obsession with paranormal studies and decides to be like his father, a scientist. This gives Zim a chance to take over the world, but he's bummed out that he doesn't have anyone to stop him. It's pretty good. Kind of reminds me of Megamind in a few ways. The fan group Soapy Waffles have plans in finishing the episode and feature it in an upcoming Invader Zim convention. Next is Those, where Zim plans to make ants the size of shoes and take over the world. It's basically a parody off of the classic horror film Them. Next is Top of the Line. The Almighty Tallest hold a contest to see which is the greatest Sir unit. It would have Zim, Gur, Tak, and others competing in the event, and somehow Gur becomes the champion. No idea how it happens, but it sounds funny. Next is The Trial, where the Almighty Tallest put Zim on trial for his doings. I'm sure they would feature some flashbacks from previous episodes, or show flashbacks from his past of all the trouble that he's caused in the past. Next is It Feeds on Noodles. Now this one is pretty funny. Zim becomes a vampire and keeps alive by feasting on Chinese food, and he has chopsticks for fangs. I would have loved to see this episode completed. It beats the Twilight series any day. Next is Pants, or sometimes known as When Pants Ruled, where Zim plans on controlling people by controlling their pants to obey him. They say it was scrapped because it was too similar to the Jimmy Neutron episode When Pants Attack, but there are some differences. In Jimmy Neutron, he has remote-controlled pants, while in Invader Zim, he has remote-controlled pants. Of Doom! Next is Squishy, Hugger of Worlds, where this giant creature named Squishy plans on hugging the world to death. I'm not sure what it would look like. All I can think of for Squishy is this giant mutant Lotso hugging bear thingy. It was said that the character Pee-Pee would be featured in this episode, which would probably lead him and Squishy fighting against each other in a Godzilla parody or something like that. And finally, there's Invader Dib, another series finale idea where Dib heads over to Zim's planet and tries to conquer it. So after all these episodes were planned, they were all scrapped since the show was too expensive and it wasn't fit for the proper age group at that time. And that is a real shame. But some of the episodes do have complete audio tracks of all the voices being recorded, and they have been featured onto YouTube and such. They usually have these fan-made storyboards to follow along with the audio and give you an idea of what the episode could have been like. Okay, now for the part that some of you have been waiting for. Here are the reasons why I will never do Invader Zim on Forgotten Media. And that's because everybody remembers the series, everyone remembers the characters, and everyone has always talked about the series over the years. Even though the series is cancelled and no longer makes new episodes, it doesn't count as being forgotten because of one thing: reruns. And since the shows still air on reruns on certain days, it really doesn't count. Another thing is that the episodes have been released on the DVD a lot, and they've recently been put on Netflix. Hot Topic is always selling merchandise from the series, Invader Zim conventions have been happening recently, and besides, if he's that forgotten, then why do they keep including Invader Zim in almost every frickin' Nicktoons video game that they've ever made? And so, those are the reasons why I will never do Invader Zim on Forgotten Media. So stop asking me to do it, because I will never do it. Never! For I am Zim, and soon all of you filthy humans will feel the wrath of my doomness! Oi. Man, I have no idea where the heck that came from. Guess I was overreacting a bit. Either that, or I somehow have Zim's pack strapped onto my back. I hope that's not the case. Well, that wraps up this episode of Forgotten Media. Tune in next time where I'll be taking a look at Super Robot Monkey Team Hyperforce Go! So until then, this is Melting Man 234 signing out.